I always thought I'd have more warning. You know? Like maybe a rumor floating around the office, or an email from HR about restructuring, or a quiet meeting with my manager where they look super apologetic and hand you a generic severance packet. But no. What I got was my boss, Leanne, cornering me in the hallway with a smirk on her face, sipping her green smoothie like she was about to deliver good news, and saying, loud enough for two people nearby to hear, "Well, if corporate's cutting heads, you'll probably be first, no offense." Then she laughed. No, really, she laughed. And just like that, the air left the room. I remember standing there, still holding the folder I was on my way to drop off, trying to process if she'd just actually said that out loud. With a grin. Like it was funny. It wasn't funny. It was humiliating. And the worst part? She meant it. She wasn't being sarcastic. She wasn't kidding. Leanne had always hated me, and now that corporate had announced potential reductions in workforce, she was practically drooling at the idea of getting rid of me. And at that moment, I made a promise to myself. If I was going down, I wasn't going down quietly. But let me back up a little. I'd been at that company, Midwest Tech, for a little over 6 years. Started as an entry-level logistics coordinator, worked my way up to senior supply chain analyst. It wasn't glamorous work, but I was good at it. I knew our vendors, our numbers, and our systems inside and out. I saved the company more money in shipping costs than our entire marketing department cost annually. But people like me, we don't make noise. We don't show off. We do the job and keep things moving. Leanne, though? She was all about noise. She came in 2 years ago as our new department director. Fresh from some startup on the coast, full of buzzwords, always talking in circles like optimizing synergy and redefining logistical paradigms. No one knew what she actually did. But she dressed sharp, talked fast, and knew how to play the politics game. And from day one, she didn't like me. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but she'd cut me off in meetings, ignore my reports, credit others for ideas I had emailed her directly. She once reassigned a project I had been leading for 4 months to a junior guy who had just been hired, then called me more of a background support person when I asked why. And yeah, it stung. But I stayed. Because I liked the work, and I wasn't going to let her push me out that easily. Then came the earnings report. Corporate hadn't hit their targets for the year. Word spread fast, cost-cutting was coming. Budgets frozen, bonuses canceled, and yeah, layoffs on the horizon. Everyone was tense. But Leanne? She practically floated around the office. Like the downsizing was a shopping spree, and she had a golden credit card. And that's when she said it. That hallway moment. If corporate's cutting heads, you'll probably be first. She said it so casually, like she was talking about the weather. I didn't respond. I just gave her a little nod, turned around, and walked away. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From clarity. Because in that moment, I realized something important. I wasn't afraid of losing my job. I was afraid of staying in a place where someone like her could smile while tearing someone down. That was Monday. What happened by Tuesday? Well, that's where it gets interesting. The rest of that Monday, I didn't work. Not really. I sat at my desk and started pulling things together. Notes, emails, files. I had documentation on every project I led, every cost reduction I initiated, every error I'd fixed from other teams. And more importantly, I had proof. Proof that Leanne wasn't just incompetent, but actively negligent. Like the time she signed off on a warehouse transfer that cost us $120,000 in inventory write-offs because she didn't wait for my QA clearance. Or the vendor switch she made based on a gut feeling that ended up delaying shipments by 3 weeks, right before peak season. She covered those things up, of course. Blamed delays on system issues. Spun the write-off like it was part of a strategic restructuring. Most of the execs didn't know the real story, but I did. And I had receipts. So I spent that Monday night crafting the most meticulous email of my life. I titled it, Departmental Oversight Summary, Q1, Q3 Review. I copied my boss. I copied my boss's boss. I copied legal and HR. And in that email, I laid it all out. Every mistake, every decision she took credit for but didn't make, every policy she broke because she thought rules didn't apply to her. I backed it up with emails, calendar invites, budget sheets, vendor messages, and shipping logs. I didn't add commentary. I didn't write emotionally. Just facts. Cold, clear, indisputable facts. I hit send at 7:42 p.m. Then I went to bed. I barely slept, but not because I was worried. I felt free. Tuesday morning, I arrived at the office a few minutes early. The place was weirdly quiet. No small talk, no coffee machines whirring, just silence. Then, around 9:15, Leanne walked in. She looked confident. She always did, until she saw me. And then she paused. I nodded. She didn't nod back. 20 minutes later, she was called upstairs. And here's the thing. I didn't get called. She did. First. By 11 a.m., word had started to spread. By 1 p.m., she was cleaning out her office. Someone said they saw her crying in the stairwell. By 3 p.m., we got the official email. Effective immediately, Leanne Wilcox is no longer with the company. We thank her for her service and wish her well in future endeavors. Classic corporate send-off. I didn't smile. Later that week, my division VP called me into a private meeting. I was nervous, I won't lie. But she didn't look angry. She looked tired. She asked me a few questions about the email, about the documentation. I answered everything truthfully. She listened, nodded, jotted notes. Then she said something I'll never forget. We should have seen it sooner. Thank you for speaking up. I didn't know what to say. She offered me a new role, interim director, more pay, more responsibility, full authority over the supply chain group. I accepted, because I knew the department needed someone who actually understood the systems, someone who respected the people behind the scenes, someone who didn't weaponize downsizing like it was a sport. A month later, the layoffs came. But guess what? I wasn't on the list. In fact, I helped build the list. And I made damn sure the people who worked hard, who showed up, who fixed the broken things quietly in the background, they were protected. I fought for them in every meeting, every budget cut, every restructuring proposal, because I remembered what it felt like to have someone smirk and tell you you're first to go. And I swore no one else would have to feel that. Looking back, it still stings. That she enjoyed it. That moment in the hallway will never leave me. That stupid green smoothie. That little smile. But I also remember how it ended. She arrived Tuesday, and by Tuesday afternoon, she was gone. And I was still standing. No grin, no smirk. Just results. The quiet ones aren't always weak. Sometimes, we're just waiting for the right moment to be heard. And when that moment comes, we don't shout. We show receipts. You'd think that getting promoted would feel like winning, like walking out of a storm into sunlight. But truth is, I didn't feel triumphant right away. I felt hollow. Maybe it was the adrenaline crash, or maybe it was the way everyone started acting around me. People who'd barely said 2 words to me before were suddenly smiling in the break room, complimenting my spreadsheets, asking how my weekend was. The same people who used to nod silently when Leanne shot down my ideas in meetings now acted like I was the hero of some silent revolution. And maybe I was, but I didn't feel heroic. I felt tired. I felt like I'd just spent months shouting into a vacuum, and only now, after proving, documenting, exposing, were people willing to listen. It was hard not to wonder, if I hadn't hit send on that email, would anyone have said anything? Would anyone have stood up? Probably not. Still, I tried not to let the bitterness eat me up. I focused on the job. Taking over Leanne's position meant inheriting her mess. And wow, there was a lot of it. Outdated systems, duplicate vendor contracts, half-finished initiatives that went nowhere. It was like she spent more time pretending to do the job than actually doing it. One of the first things I did was sit down with every single member of the team, one-on-one. I wanted to know what was broken, what they were frustrated with, what they thought we could fix. And I'll tell you something, it was eye-opening. Some of these people had brilliant ideas, small changes that could have saved the company thousands. But no one ever asked them. Because under Leanne, if you didn't speak her language, buzzwords and ego, you were invisible. And I got it, because I used to be invisible too. So I made a rule. In my department, good ideas came before big voices. It took time. Some people were skeptical. Some were afraid to speak up, even after I invited them to. But slowly, the culture started to shift. The quiet ones, the analysts, the planners, the behind-the-scenes folks, they started sharing more. And guess what? We got results. Vendor error rates dropped, freight costs stabilized, back orders decreased. We became one of the few departments that actually posted gains during the next quarterly review. The VP called me into her office again. "Whatever you're doing," she said, "keep doing it." I smiled, not because I needed the praise, but because I finally felt like I belonged. Still, not everything was smooth. See, power doesn't just disappear when someone gets fired. It redistributes, and some people weren't happy about the new balance, especially Mike. Mike was a senior project manager, loud, charming, the kind of guy who name-drops executives and always seems to know the gossip first. He was Leanne's favorite. They were two peas in a pod, always bouncing ideas off each other in meetings, always undermining quieter voices, always circling like they owned the floor. And now? Now I was the floor. He didn't like that. He played nice at first, fake compliments, passive-aggressive suggestions about how I should run things. But when I didn't promote him, when I started giving more responsibilities to people who'd actually been doing the work behind the scenes, he turned. He started whispering, spreading little rumors, that I'd thrown Leanne under the bus, that I'd weaponized corporate policy to climb the ladder, that I wasn't a leader, just a tattletale who knew how to write emails. It got back to me. Of course it did. And honestly, I didn't even care, because I didn't need to win popularity contests. I needed to protect my team. But then Mike went too far. He tried to sabotage a vendor audit I initiated, purposely forgot to send files, sent conflicting reports to legal, told the auditor I had signed off on documents I'd never even seen. That crossed a line. So I did what I do best. I documented everything. I pulled up the email trails, the Slack messages, the calendar invites. I highlighted discrepancies, filed an internal report with compliance, and sent everything directly to legal, copying HR this time too. Mike was gone by the end of the month. I didn't celebrate because I was starting to realize something about power. It doesn't always corrupt, but it does expose. When Leanne was in charge, she protected people like Mike, people who helped her maintain control. When I took over, I shined a light on that control, and all the little games fell apart. And as the department got healthier, I started to get healthy too. It's funny, I hadn't realized how stressed I'd been until I wasn't anymore. I started sleeping through the night again. I didn't dread Mondays. I didn't feel like I was one mistake away from being erased. I finally had room to think bigger. So I did. I proposed a new initiative, automated vendor accountability tracking, a streamlined dashboard that pulled data from multiple systems and flagged discrepancies in real time. No more manual audits, no more guesswork, just clean, transparent data. It got approved. Not just approved, it got funded, company-wide. And suddenly, I was no longer just the quiet analyst who nearly got laid off. I was the guy who built the system that saved the company $250,000 a year. And when the CEO mentioned the tool by name in the next all-hands meeting, yeah, that was a moment. Still, I kept it humble, because here's the truth. I didn't get here because I wanted revenge. I got here because I wanted to matter. And sometimes, those two things look similar, but they're not the same. Revenge burns fast. Purpose burns slow. Now don't get me wrong, I still think about that hallway moment. Sometimes it pops up out of nowhere. I'll be typing up a report or walking to my car, and suddenly I'll hear her voice in my head. If corporate's cutting heads, you'll probably be first. But now? Now I smile, because she was wrong. I wasn't first to go. I was first to rise, and not because I played their game better, but because I refused to play it at all. I built my own game, with rules that rewarded integrity, with players who didn't need to shout to be heard, with goals that actually meant something, and I'm proud of that. Proud of the team we've built, proud of the work we do, proud that I stayed long enough to see the day when the quiet guy in the corner became the leader in the room. So if you're in a place right now where you feel invisible, where someone is trying to write your story for you, remember this: you get to hold the pen. You don't have to be loud. You just have to be clear. And when the moment comes, when you've had enough, when the line's been crossed, don't scream. Show receipts. Let the truth speak. And then, watch what happens. It's been about a year since all of that happened. Sometimes I still walk into the office early, before anyone else shows up, and just sit at my desk with a coffee, looking out over the floor. It's quiet. Peaceful. The hum of computers starting up, that soft click of overhead lights turning on. It used to feel heavy, like a weight on my shoulders. But now, it feels like mine. Not in the ownership sense. I don't think I own anything more than anyone else here, but in the sense that I belong. I fought to stay here, not because I was desperate, but because I believed in what this place could be, what it should be, a place where people get heard, where quiet competence matters more than loud charisma, where performance isn't measured by how many times you speak up in a meeting, but by what you do when no one's watching. And you know something? The team notices. A few months ago, one of the junior analysts, Sarah, asked if she could talk to me privately. She seemed nervous, fidgety. I thought maybe something was wrong, but all she said was, "Thank you." I asked what for, and she said, "For seeing me, for giving me space to grow, for not making me feel like I had to change who I am just to matter." That stuck with me, because that's what I wish someone had done for me all those years ago. I think we forget sometimes just how many people are walking around with their heads down, not because they're weak, not because they're lazy, but because they've been taught that being quiet makes you invisible. It doesn't. Not if someone's willing to see you. So now, when I walk through those halls, I make sure to notice the ones in the corners, the ones who don't raise their hands right away, the ones who take notes while others argue, the ones who deliver silently, reliably, without the need for praise. They're the backbone. They're the reason things don't fall apart. And if someone ever tells them they're first to go, like Leanne told me, I hope they do what I did. Not lash out, not yell, just listen, watch, document, and then, when the moment's right, let the work speak, let the truth speak, let them speak, on their terms, because there's power in silence, there's strength in observation, and sometimes, the quiet ones, we're just waiting, waiting to be seen, waiting to be heard, waiting to lead. And when we finally do, no grin, no smirk, just results.